On June 11, 2018, the police responded to a 911 call. The caller had been hiking when he noticed a strange smell coming from the woods. He decided to investigate the smell, and that's when he found a female torso covered by a blanket.
How far back is it?
Right in to the left there. I walk this frequently.
Okay.
I lifted off the sheets with a stick.
Okay.
I saw buzzes coming up here.
After examining the body, the police noticed a tattoo of a robin sitting on a branch on the female's shoulder. The tattoo belonged to 63-year-old Robin Upson. Her daughter had filed a missing persons report a week before her body was found. The police would go to Robin's home, and the first thing they noticed was that quite a bit of tree work had been done. Inside the home, they found evidence that Robin's life had been taken in her kitchen, and whoever had done it had stolen her truck as well. With this information, the police checked security cameras in the area, hoping to find the missing truck. Several cameras at a Walmart had caught the truck pulling into their parking lot and a white male entering their store. With little else to go on, the police decided to interview Robin's daughter, Summer.
You and your mom, is it a close relationship?
Yes and no. I mean, a question that I've dealt with since this happened. My mother, this has happened to my mother before. She wasn't dead when she was found.
I read the audition part.
When she was younger, right?
When she was 19, 18?
When she was 19, 18,
Yeah.
19, and before she had me.
Right.
It was 2 weeks before my parents were to get married, and she went to go get her wedding dress, and I don't know the story behind it. Either she picked up a hitchhiker, or he held a knife to her. From what I've heard, two different versions.
Right.
And she was not a very outspoken person. I'm more headstrong than she is, because I'd be putting my seatbelt on and driving that car as fast as I could into a wall.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she was taken, and they found. I was told 2 bikers saw her body or found her body. Didn't want to be blamed, so they just called the police and left an anonymous tip.
Right.
And they took her, put her in a hospital, and she was under the name of Jane Doe because they didn't know who she was.
Right.
And then I was told Boy Scouts came across her car she had been beaten the head with a tire iron, and that before that, the only thing she remembers is being strangled, and from strangled to being in the hospital, and that was it. That's all she remembered.
According to Summer, Robin had gone through a similar situation decades earlier. The only difference was that she made it out alive. She explains that her mother is a very passive person who lets other people take advantage of her.
And we had an understanding. I thought, you can only tell people certain things, and they'll only take so much. I agree, whatever, and, go and do your own thing is what pretty much I feel she did. But I thought we had an understanding that I asked her not to have anybody in the house, stay in the house with her other than family members, like my grandparents, cousins, whatever, people that, they're not going to try to take advantage of her or anything like that.
Right.
She would say whatever, and then she would not talk. And
she wasn't confrontational.
No, she was not confrontational.
Summer explains that a man named Christopher Takhvar had been staying with Robin and doing work around her home. While he was staying there, Robin's parents would allow him to use their van so he could run errands and pick up materials. Christopher would come home one day without the van, and he didn't want to tell Robin what had happened to it or where the vehicle was.
She went to go confront him about the car, and something happened, and that's my thoughts on it. This is just all, here, what I'm thinking. Because I think she would have been to go ask him, okay, well, where's the car at? My parents allowed you to have this car to use up until this point, and it hasn't come back yet. Where is it at? And I think something went wrong. That's what I'm thinking from what you've told me and what I've gathered. But other than that, we've met him The guy, the Chris Tolliver, right?
Yeah, something like that. His last name is, it's hard to pronounce.
Yeah.
Describe Chris's personality. What kind of person is he?
From what I've gathered from the few hours that I've spent with him, he's quiet, but then he seemed like not
Reserved.
reserved.
Do you know if your mom and him were romantically involved at all?
I have no clue. I never really. The last person I knew that she was romantically involved was a truck driver named Buddha. About 15 years ago, when my oldest daughter was born.
Summer talks about the happy times with her mother, and as the interview comes to an end, she has one last request.
What day was that? I don't remember what day that was, but I do remember the text that I told you about. We don't have television in the house, and we don't believe in playing all that in the house.
Right.
Or I don't. And she had mentioned something about a storm coming in, and she said, batten down the hatches, baby. And I was like, okay,
Coming in to Shreveport.
because she would keep an eye, and she said, well, there's a storm, because she knows that I have never liked storms.
Okay.
From when I was a little. Came from a camping experience we had, and there was a tornado warning, from some kind of a tornado warning or watch when we were in a tent, and they decided to stay there, and thunder lightning, and
during a tornado.
yeah, and I remember thunder and lightning, and I'm thinking, oh, I want to get out of here. I know it's really weird, but I have a letter that I want to write. It's not spiteful or hateful. I want to write it, put it in a Bible, and would you or somebody be able to give it to this individual? Because they need Jesus, because they don't have them.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently.
Yeah, absolutely.
And and that will help. It will help me heal, I think. And it's what I'm supposed to do, even though I don't feel that way right now.
Right.
But I need to.
Right. No, I
Because
understand.
that's what Chris wants me to do.
Yeah, I understand.
We will be posting the entire 1-hour interview with Robin's daughter on our second channel. Now that the police had their prime suspect, all they had to do was find him. The police searched for several days, and thanks to some information from an informant, they found Christopher staying with a friend.
Robin needed help with her and her parents, like chores and miscellaneous stuff that needed done around the house. I'm sure hopefully the mom told you I was very helpful around there, but maybe not.
Yeah, no. Actually, she said you were very helpful.
And that's primarily why I went out there, and the reason why I followed the vehicle was I had done some tree cutting, and Robin got upset with me. I don't know if mood swings or what, but she got upset with me about cutting down the second tree. She wanted me to stop and have a professional come in. And basically, she, for lack of better words, told me that she wanted me to get out of her house. I mean, that's a polite way of putting it. I mean, she threw off the handle. I don't know if you know Robin's history, but she...
You're talking about the head injury. I'm aware of that.
Well, beyond that, just recently she was on trial for assault on a peace officer. And that was a friend that she had staying at her house, same situation as mine, and she threw him and his stuff out. So the next morning, after she had told me to leave, she wasn't around, so I went to the mom's house and I said, look, can I borrow your car? Robin's not here, truck's not here. I need to, do some chores and take care of my stuff. And basically, honestly, what I planned to do was go down to the airport and have, some friends wire me an airplane ticket, which never happened. I ended up taking Greyhound Orlando, but that's basically what happened, and it's completely unfortunate. You know, Robin's mom gave me permission via, what was that called? Internet, the Facebook Messenger. And so one of her last texts to me, because I remember I was still in Hawaii, and she said, you can use the car whenever you want when you're here. And I was like, cool, that kind of alleviates, because I already knew how Robin was. Right. I've been coming down there for about 4 years, 3 or 4 trips in 4 years. The last trip before this trip, I installed French doors in her house, picked up some of my belongings. I had some tattoo chairs and some other possessions and stuff at her house. And I was very cordial when I installed the doors, but I kind of felt like there was a little bit of tension already. And sure enough, as soon as I finished the install, I took the chairs and whatnot back to Texas. I think I talked to Robin maybe a week later, and that's when she had just got thrown in jail because of the Ben incident. So, all this is going through my head when I was kind of forced to borrow the other vehicle, in my opinion, right, because I had no other options, and, in the sense that, in my head, Robin was willing to leave me out on the street and it's raining outside and it's horrible weather at the time. So I was just like, I gotta, kind of look out for, my best interest at this point. And obviously that would be to just go back home to Hawaii, which didn't happen, unfortunately. So, that's basically it. And, I feel horrible that I, didn't respond to Mom after, she had her last text to me. She said she was calling the cops. And I'm like, what are you calling the cops for? You gave me permission.
Christopher explains the misunderstanding about the vehicle, but he also mentions how Robin did not like how he cut down the trees in her yard. When the police went to Robin's house after finding her body, they noticed that the trees had in fact been cut down, but it appeared as if the job had not been finished. The detective likely believes that an argument about the trees is what led to Robin's death.
The trees you were cutting down, were those at Lena's house or at Robin's house?
Oh.
Okay. And what was it about she flipped out because the one tree she didn't think you were doing it right, or?
The first tree was, I had tied off a cable to it to prevent it from falling on the house. So I'm not there to cause damage.
Yeah, of course.
So I tied a cable to the tree all the way to the back trees, and then went to cutting. And I don't know what my geometry was off or what, but the tree started it kind of did one of these instead of
just fell off.
Yeah, and so it was definitely kind of looking like it was going to fall for itself, which is not good. So, the first tree came down, and by miracle, it missed the shed, and kind of leaned against this other tree over here. So technically, I still had to cut down the tree because it was still in the air. So I did all that part myself, got it down. So my goal was to help her not have that expense. I'm there to work.
Right.
So I went ahead and started the other tree, and that's what she flipped out, and it kind of.
Why was she flipping out?
I don't know if it was worrisome, a phone call that she had. I don't know, honestly. There have been times that I've been there that I have thought that Robin does like hard drugs, like meth or whatever. I don't know.
The detective questions Christopher about various things about Robin and her house. These questions will help prove that Christopher did in fact know her and that he had motive to take her life. The questioning continues until Christopher wants to know why he is being asked so many questions.
So you were in the first room to the right. She just had her mattress in the living room?
Mm-hmm. Okay. What, if you don't mind me asking, I mean, is all this pertaining to the car, or?
Yeah, a lot of us to the car. After you, did anybody else use the van besides you or Lena?
Not that I'm aware of.
Did you keep it at Robin's place or was it down at her mom's?
What do you mean?
When you went and stalked her that morning in the half snake, Robin's gone, she took the truck. Was the van at Lena's house or at Robin's house?
At Rob.
At Robin's. Yeah, but as far as you know, other than Robin's mom, nobody else would use the van.
I don't even think she drove.
Okay. So just pretty much you were the only one that used it while you were there?
As far as I know.
Okay. All right. Did anybody else come over to the house while you were there this last time?
I kind of kept to myself. You know, Robin is known to be very moody, and, you know, I was just kind of there to accomplish a goal.
So the relationship with Robin was more platonic, more business relationship, more friendly, romantic. I mean, what kind of
it was a friend relationship.
friend relationship?
The detective decides to ask Christopher if he knows what happened to Robin.
Do you know what happened to Robin?
What do you mean?
Do you know where she is? Do you know what's going on with her? Anything?
I
Heard anything at all?
haven't talked to her since.
Have you heard anything that has happened to her, that she's in trouble? That
No.
Okay. And you never saw her again after you left?
No.
So you've had no contact with her at all since you left?
No.
Well, obviously, I'm not here just for a story, so I mean, I'm sure you would think it'd be kind of unusual for somebody to fly from Florida to Texas to talk to you about a stolen van.
I've seen some interesting things in my time, but
Yeah. Okay. So, I'm working on homicide.
okay, who's homicide?
Robin. And because you're the last one that I can put with her, I need to really get information from you and see where I need to focus my investigation. And see if you have any clues as to what happened, you know, anybody who may be involved. But I need you to be as upfront with me as you can about what happened prior to you leaving. So Robin's mom is beside herself. Summer and her kids are beside themselves, and they want some answers as to what happened to Robin. You know, and I'm hoping that you'll be able to give me some ideas. I'd like to be able to give them some closure so they can understand what happened.
We see this a lot in this type of situation, where a murder suspect is told that their victim is dead, and their response is unnatural. Usually, an innocent person will ask questions about the homicide. They'll want to know how the person died, do the police have any suspects, and what they can do to help. Christopher does the usual, cover the face, act sad, and remain silent routine.
I know with the truck, her truck, you had parked it at the Internet Cafe at 119 and 441.
I did?
The video showed that you parking it on a side parking lot, getting out in a downpour of rain, crazy rain, and then just walking away. And so I'm kind of curious because that would have been after you said Robin left with the truck. So Chris, I mean, this woman I know, her mentally she would go off sometimes. And you were busting your butt to help her out.
I think I'm aware.
Okay. Is that you saying you don't want to talk to me anymore? Or do you want to hear what I have to say? It's totally up to you. If you want an attorney, then
I'll hear what you have to say.
Okay. I've looked into you. I've looked into your history from what as much as I can, without actually talking to you. And from what I can see, you look like somebody that's trying to do the best they can to make a legal buck. I don't see you out there robbing and stealing and trying to hurt anybody. I see you trying to bust
I'm not fucking drug dealers that raise their families.
Yeah.
And I don't even get to see my fucking kids.
Yeah. You got 3 kids, right? I feel like something happened that just totally out of character for Chris. And nobody can make sense of it. And that's why I came from Florida to Texas to talk to you. Because from what I could see, you look like, you're not some young punk that I'd be dealing with on the street. You're a smart guy. You're my age. So you're not somebody I'm going to sit here and pull the wool over your eyes. But you look like
I probably need to talk to the lawyer. That's... Yeah.
Okay. If you want to talk to an attorney, if you're telling me you want an attorney, I can't ask you any more questions.
I want to help your brother, but obviously at this point in my life it's in danger.
Well, and this is not related to, I'd like to know why you think your life is in danger, so I can, without asking questions.
Well, you're pointing fingers at a homicide.
I was coming to talk to you because you were one of the last ones with her, to see her and talk to her. And I need to know if Chris can answer all these questions for me or if Chris can put me on the right track. But if you're a question attorney, I can't ask you any more questions.
Is my mom around?
Your mom is at home right now. But regardless of your decision right now, I promise your mom as a man that I'd work out her talking to you, and I'm still going to do that. I'm not angry at you. I don't hate you. I've sat across from people 100 times, and they tell me all kinds of crazy stuff. They lie to me, honest with me. It doesn't hurt my feelings. I understand. When people are sitting where you're at, they're scared. And
I'm not scared, brother.
Or concerned or whatever. But
I'm embarrassed.
It doesn't hurt my feelings to be lied to in the beginning.
I haven't lied to you.
Yeah, I feel like you've been totally upfront with me. But if you're asking for an attorney, I'm going to respect your request to have an attorney. I can't continue to ask questions. Okay? If you decide at another point you do want to talk to me, you're more than welcome to reach out to me.
Even though Christopher has requested a lawyer multiple times, it's obvious that he wants to confess. He may feel guilty about what he has done, or he may think there is more than enough evidence to convict him, so confessing will help him in the long run. Whatever the reason, the detective continues to push Christopher, making sure not to ask him any questions about the case.
I'm trying to calculate, I guess, what the fucking difference would be between me telling you what happened down there or up here. Obviously it's pretty fucking incriminating that I was climbing out of a fucking van or truck or whatever. It was self-defense, bro. And I know it sounds fucking crazy, but she came at me with a knife, screaming at me.
Chris, I want to hear everything you have to say. But you mentioned attorney. I want to be 100% sure that this is what you want to talk to me right now. Because once you say you want an attorney, I can't ask you any more questions. I'm going to give you 1 second just to think about it. And I'll be right back with you, okay? Just think about it for a minute. I'll be right back with you. I'll give you 5 minutes, okay? Because I don't want you to feel pressured or pushed or anything to say something. I'm right back with you.
You give me a cigarette?
I'll see if we can work that out. Okay? I don't smoke. I'll see if somebody does.
Shoot, fucking negative. Just got violent. Came at me. Unfortunately, I had a fucking chainsaw in my hand.
She came at you with a knife? So what happens when she comes at you? You have a chainsaw in your head.
To defend myself, wielding a knife at me. Fortunately, it was an electric chainsaw. Fucking swung at the button. That was it.
And I couldn't tell them, because they, obviously, their daughter, which is not even their daughter, she's adopted, you know, so it's like, you know, it's so fucked. What do you do when you're in that position? Now I look like a fucking psycho because I cut off a freaking human being.
Christopher confesses to taking Robin's life and then hiding her body. Afterwards, he was extradited back to Florida, where he would be interviewed one last time.
I've got all my notes from when I talked to you out in Texas. And I want you to know that what you told me about where I would find Robin, she was right where you said, obviously. Her phone was in there, like you said it would be. But I wanted to clarify more of how everything happened, how it was she came at you, because when you told me that she came at you with a knife, but I didn't get a whole lot of details about that. You know, you told me that you guys, tell me again, I know you guys have been outside working on the trees, right? Was Robin out there with you working on it?
No.
Okay. Where was Robin while you were working on the trees?
In the house and going to and fro wherever she was going, doing her stuff.
Okay.
And she had gotten back, and
when you say got back, was she away from the house? Was she out running errands or something? Or?
I don't know. I was in the back doing the trees, so you know, in between being in her house and going to her mom's house and back and forth and stuff. And she had come out. I was on the porch, and she had come like to the door and screamed at me that she didn't want me to cut down any more trees and blah blah blah. She was in fear for my safety or some bullshit. And
when you say came to the door, you're sitting on the back porch. She came to the door that leads from the house to the porch, or from the outside, the door that leads outside into the porch?
No, the house to the porch.
Right.
And she had went back in the kitchen, and I'm pretty sure she was in there sharpening the knife at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I figured, well, might as well just start cleaning up. So I had grabbed the chainsaw, and I had walked inside with the chainsaw, and she was still kind of, you know, upset. And I had walked past her, and then she was on the corner of like the kitchen and the dining room, and she had the knife in her hand, and she just kind of spazzed out and started screaming at me again, and had turned around, and I still had the chainsaw in my hand. And before I came into the house, I had checked the battery, but I had hit the start button instead of the battery button.
Right.
And
is there like
you know,
a battery test button or
yeah,
something?
yeah, there's a battery test button and there's a start button, and I do believe I hit the start button, obviously I did, instead of the battery button, which they both beep, so it let me know that, you know, it was charged. So I was like, well, fuck it, I'll just go put it away. and I was going to the garage to go put it away, and she was over here, and I was over here.
Where's over here?
Kind of on the corner of, like, in front of that, there's like a little, it's not a hutch, it's like a little shelf cabinet thing. It had like...
In the living room?
Yeah,
okay.
in the living room area. And that was about where I had stopped where I was walking. I had turned around, and that's about where we had a confrontation. She had whirled around, and she was screaming at me, and she had a knife in her hand, and all I did is kind of put my arms up with the chainsaw, and unfortunately it went off.
So what did she do with the knife? How is she holding it? What did she do with it?
All I saw was the shine of the knife coming at me, honestly.
Okay.
And I had heard her sharpening it.
Right.
It was, I don't know if it was a fucking hobby of hers, but I mean, she sharpened her knives very frequently.
Right.
And, you know, so I already had that in the back of my head that you know what I mean? And they're fucking with their knives again, you know.
Right.
And, you know, so when I went to obviously push her arms away with the knife, you know, the chainsaw went off, and then at that point, somewhere, I mean, obviously, it was very fast, very chaotic, in my opinion. But at some point, we ended up on the bed,
right.
And you know, at that point, you know, obviously, you know, her life had ceased to exist. I mean, like I said, if you guys don't believe it was an accident, that's on you guys, bro. You know what I mean? I know in my heart what happened, and I already feel bad enough for my part in trying to hide a horrible accident.
Right.
You know, I am not a bad person. And
I told you your history doesn't.
Well, that guy coming at me sideways like I'm a, you know, like I said, you guys are gonna do what you're gonna do. Right. You told me that you would try and protect, you know, the bigger right, which is, you know, I looked after that family, mm-hmm. and have done nothing but help them. And this is, again, an unfortunate accident, right. And, you know, other than that, you know, I'm just horribly sorry that you know, I should have.
You know what you should have done?
Left.
You should have just called. I mean, you should have.
No, I should have just never went to fucking there from Hawaii to help
right.
her.
But the scene in the living room doesn't support the physical confrontation. Nothing was out of place.
I understand that, sir, and like I said, I did a lot of cleanup. There was nothing physically broken.
Right.
Because I have tried to be truthful with you and upfront. So if I'm going to be penalized for that, you know what? That's between me and God. I know what happened. If you don't believe me, you know.
Majority of what you told me has panned out, has been truthful and honest.
Majority.
Well, and
like
because
I said,
I need
where have I been untruthful?
What happened in the living room, how it happened, is what I'm trying to understand.
I'm being as truthful as I can be. What I remember.
Right.
Like I said, I cleaned up a lot right. in the living room. I used degreaser cleanup. I used bleach. I used degreaser cleanup again. I threw a rug away. I flipped a fucking mattress over. I mean, it's unfortunate I had to go through these things.
Right.
But, you know,
yeah.
You know, I mean, this is, again, it's not something I'm proud of, but I mean, like I said, put yourself in my shoes. What would you do if a freak accident like that happened, and you know you're busting your ass for this person, and you know, next thing you know, you're looking at losing your fucking life
Right.
because, you know, of this person's, you know, uncontrollable ability to lose their shit, whether she was bipolar, I don't know what her problem was. But I mean, there's reasonable accord record of her doing this exact same thing.
Right.
And you know, like I said, if you guys don't believe me, that's on you. I'm okay with me being upfront and honest with you to the degree that I wanted her family to be able to have a respectable funeral.
I
And
appreciate that.
And you know, this was not a hateful thing. It was not a vengeful thing. It was not anything other than a freak accident.
Christopher had claimed self-defense, but because of the extent he went to hide the body and then lie about it, the jury found him guilty of second-degree murder. On the day he was sentenced, Christopher shared his displeasure with the court because he believed he had not been treated fairly. He told the judge that he did not accept his sentence. Unfortunately for him, that's not how it works, and he will remain incarcerated for the rest of his life.